Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is just a little bit different because it's a get ready with me, as you saw in the title, but it's a very serious get ready with me talk. It's a video that I've been wanting to film for the longest time, and every time I think I'm ready to sit down and do it, I guess, I don't get scared, but I feel like I'm not prepared to lay it all out on the table. But I mentioned recently in one of my previous videos that I was thinking about doing a video about talking about my illness. I do talk about having an illness, an autoimmune disease, all the time. And a bunch of you said you let me know your illnesses, and I appreciate that so much, and I can definitely sympathize and empathize with you. And you did let me know that you would be interested in hearing my story. And my goal out of this video is basically that maybe I can inform people, maybe I can help one person out there feel better about the illness that they have and the struggles that they have in their lives. Because we all have struggles, but sometimes we don't feel like we have anyone to relate to or to share our struggles with. And this video is not meant, it's not meant for sympathy, it's not meant for you to feel sorry for me, but it is meant to maybe educate you. And there are a lot of things that people say to people with, we call them invisible disabilities, that they may mean well, but they always don't come across the right way. So my hope is to maybe help a bunch of people, caregivers, those who are sick, those who are struggling with the same thing I have. I'm hoping I can give you just a little bit of insight into what my daily world is like. And I do hope you find this interesting. I'm sorry it was a long intro, but I'm just going to get ready. And I'm not going to really talk about the products that I'm using. I may mention them a little bit here and there, but it's really more about the meat of the video and getting across to you guys what I've been wanting to let you in on for a long time. So I hope you keep watching. So I have to start with some eye patches today because I am beyond words exhausted, and my under eyes, see what I mean? My under eyes need a little bit of help. They need sleep, but I'll take the help. I'll be listing everything that I'm using in the description box below. These are super duper wet. I can't find my gel ones that I like to use for these, but whatever. Hopefully I don't have to wash it off. So I took those gels off, and I'm going to use them later because you have to wash the stuff off afterwards, and I can't get to my sink when I'm filming. So I'm just using my black under eye gels, which I can put on and get ready while they are on. So that's what I'm going to do. By the way, this is going to be a bit of a long one probably. So may as well get yourself something and chill out and just hang and have a good time. And I look like Lisa Lopez. I like these black gels. That's the company BLAQ, because they stay put and they're not sopping wet. I never do my eyes first, but you know, I'm going for something different. I'm just using my Too Faced The Anniversary palette. So in order for me to tell my story, guys, I have to go back. And I do mean way back. And the reason for that is because the story involves a bunch of different people, and I kind of have to go into that. So it was back in 2001, February, and my sister was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I was engaged at the time, planning my wedding, and it was very devastating news. She had 2 small babies at the time. My sister was my best friend in the whole entire world. So she had to go through, in total, she went through 4 surgeries. She had a long and arduous battle with brain cancer. But the reason I'm going into that is because, ignore the freaking trucks outside. When she got sick, she became the focus of my attention. Yes, I was still trying to plan my wedding, but she was the most important thing for me. And because of that, I was doing everything I could for her. I was there at her apartment all the time, either watching the kids or taking care of her. And, you know, when she was in the hospital, going to visit her in the hospital and things like that. And I started not to feel well. But, you know, I contributed a lot of it to you're planning a wedding, your sister's sick, you're worried about her, you have so much going on, of course you're not going to feel well. And it was little things. It was a general feeling of unwellness, but I started getting vertigo all the time. Like I would just, you know, I was always, put it this way, I was a runner. I was a gym rat. I used to run for miles and miles and miles, and it was the most invigorating thing. I used to love to run. And like little things that started happening, like I would be running and like my ankle would give out on me. I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, you know, what is going on there, etc. But, you know, I passed it off. I was like, oh, whatever. Maybe, you know, I just slipped or there was a rock or something. And then other strange things started happening. Every time I would like move my arm, I would get this, how can I describe it? Only way I can try to describe it is like a wet, burning sensation that went down my shoulder and like into like my back. I was like, okay, that's weird. And then the thing that actually prompted me to go to a doctor, the first doctor I went to, was that I started, all of a sudden I woke up and I had these black dots in my vision. Not floaters, but basically imagine looking through a very dirty screen and a window, and it's got like black dirt on it, and you can't see through it because these things are in your vision. And I had some like pain in my eye, and I thought it was weird, so I went to the eye doctor. I went to just a regular eye doctor, and he's like, well, you know, I just went to an optometrist, and he's like, oh, you know, he took the picture, and he's like, oh, everything looks fine, but, you know, I want you to go see an optoneurologist. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. I never did that because I was taking care of my sister and planning a wedding and worrying about everything that was going on. So I let that pass, and after about 6 weeks, those spots went away. And after about 6 weeks, the burning went away. Okay, I was also extremely tired. I mean, I'm extremely tired all the time now. And again, I blamed it on, look what you have going on. You have a sick sister, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're working, etc. And then I started getting vertigo. Like I'd turn my head really quick, and like the room would like, you know, do 360s, and I would get nauseated and break out into a cold sweat. And I was like, oh wow, you know, that's really, really strange. You know, I don't know what's going on with that. And, you know, that was going on, and that never went away. It's still never gone away. I have vertigo every day, 24/7, 365 days of the year. That's why you see a lot of cuts in my videos, because I have to stop because filming makes me dizzy and gives me vertigo. So sometimes I have to stop and center myself and then restart again. So I was experiencing that. And then the worst thing is I started having bladder problems. And what I mean by bladder problems is I would use the restroom, and then 10 minutes later I feel like I have to use the restroom again. And like I couldn't drive far. I was in a band at the time and working weekends on top of my regular job. And like during gigs, like I'd have to run off stage. I'd have such urgency to have to go, and I'd have to run off stage and use the restroom. And I was like, all right, this is weird. So that was happening. And again, I ignored it. And some of these symptoms would come and go. They'd last a few days, they'd last a few weeks, and then they'd come and go. Then 9/11 happened. My sister recovered after one surgery. She was doing okay. She was on chemo. Then 9/11 happened, and I almost lost my other sister. She worked in the World Trade Center, and we didn't know where she was for about 8 hours. And the stress of everything. I remember sitting with my sister who was sick and us watching it on TV and not knowing whether my sister was dead or alive. Thank God she made it out alive. But that whole time, I'm experiencing more and more and more odd symptoms that don't connect to each other. I never associated a bladder and a weak ankle and tripping and suddenly dropping everything and suddenly not being able to speak, having aphasia. I go to say something and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. They just wouldn't come. I would sit there and be silent, or I would lose my words. Or aphasia means, you say things and I would say things backwards. And again, you're tired, Leanne. You're stressed. You're going through so much. What do you expect? 9/11 happens. We get over that. It's very close to my wedding at this point. My wedding was in January of 2002. Sorry, these keep slipping when you're talking. Just like I was watching a video of Jen Love's Reviews. Was it Jen? No, it wasn't Jen Love's Reviews. It was Rach Love's. And she was talking with these on, and it's like she had the same problem. They kept slipping. So all of that is happening, and I'm blowing it off, and I'm blowing it off, and I'm blowing it off because my sister's what's important. My sister is the one who needs me right now. I have too much to do, too much else to worry about. I cannot worry about these little tiny things that are happening to me. My wedding comes and goes, and my sister was at my wedding, and it was beautiful. It was her best day. She had the best day at my wedding. She looked beautiful. She wore a beautiful velvet hat because she had lost her hair. So she looked gorgeous, and it was such a special day. So now I'm married, and these things are continuing. And now we're in the process of looking for houses because we were living in an apartment. And all of these things are continuing. The fatigue is continuing. My need to sleep 12 hours a day when I could was continuing. The vertigo was getting worse. The numbness would go from a leg. All of a sudden, I started, every time I put my head down like this, I would feel this electric shock go down my spine. It was almost like somebody pouring ice water, but with pain down the back of down your back. And it was painful to put my head down. And so every time, you're moving normally and you're getting all of these tingling sensations and pains and clumsiness and dropping things and all of these odd things. And again, nothing is making sense. So while none of this is making any sense to me, I have to drink some coffee. While all of this is occurring, I'm trying to have a marriage. I'm brand new, starting out in a marriage. I'm feeling awful all the time. And at the time, my husband at the time was not very understanding of anything. He was like, you're sleeping all the time and what's going on? And, he wasn't very supportive of the things I was doing for my sister. I was always at my sister's. And, time is progressing. She's had 2 more surgeries at this point. And, things are getting worse. And the prognosis isn't good. And the doctors don't think she has much longer. And I'm trying to do everything for her that I can. Her disabilities are getting greater by the day. And so I wasn't worrying about me again. But again, all of these things would recur, go away for a little bit, recur, go away for a little bit. But I was concerned about feeling horrible, but I wasn't really paying attention to it, if that makes any sense. I kind of wasn't the focus at that time. I didn't want to be the focus. It was my sister who needed to be the focus of everything that was going on anywhere. I'm just going to spray my brush for some of the metallics. Now I'm going to fast forward even more. More things are occurring with me, different things, but they would come, they would go. My speech was getting worse. I was forgetting things. I would be slurring my words. I stopped running really at that point because I kept falling and I was injuring myself. The vertigo is out of control. Can't tell you how many times I had to pull the car over and vomit. And again, I just kept passing it off and ignoring it and letting it go. We're going to fast forward even further now. And unfortunately, in my opinion, because I don't want to get my butt sued, in my opinion, my husband at the time was not there the way he should be. So I didn't even have my husband to say, I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. We're now going to fast forward to 2003. It is the summer of 2003. I thought I was at my worst at that time. Barely able to function. Missing a lot of work. But still, I'd go to a doctor here and there for that. And at one point when I went for my shoulder, they said, oh, at the time you were working out, you must have strained something. So they took like an MRI of my shoulder. Everything looked fine. So they said, oh, no, whatever. So, I would go, but they would do these random tests that weren't showing anything. And there was a reason for that. And I'll get to that. So the summer of 2003 was very, very difficult. We knew she didn't have much time left. So it was about doing all I could to spend the time with her that I could. Wasn't really talking at this point or anything like that. I can take these off now because they're just getting on my nerves. Now my husband, and I can't believe I'm saying this because he just, I didn't agree with it, but it didn't matter to him. He was a hunter. And it is now October 15th of 2003. We had bought a house, we moved into the house, we were fixing it up, and I would sit there, remember I was painting the rooms, and I would burst into tears because I was feeling so awful. And then I was feeling awful about myself for feeling awful and not thinking about my sister at that time. And I felt horribly guilty about that. So it's October 15th, it was opening weekend for hunting season. I lived in upstate New York, in Westchester County at the time. And it's 4:30 in the morning, and I get that phone call. And I get the phone call that's telling me that my sister is gone. And my life ended at that point in time. So now, everything's going on. Making the funeral arrangements, being there for my brother-in-law. I would take the kids out, at the house for a little bit, take them shopping or whatever. And all the while, the vertigo is getting worse. I'm having trouble even getting out of bed in the morning. I get out of bed in the morning and I fall out of bed and hit the floor in the morning. And dropping everything. I couldn't even speak sometimes. The numbness, the tingling, everything was now escalating and escalating. I made it through my sister's funeral with, again, saying to myself, you just lost your sister, you just lost your best friend. Of course, you're in hell. Of course you're going to feel like hell. Of course everything is not going to be okay. So that's what's going on, Leanne. That's what's occurring, nothing else. Part of me felt guilty for even thinking about myself when my niece and nephew just lost their mother. My parents lost their daughter. There were too many other things besides me to think about. Fast forward 3.5 weeks till November, and I get another dreaded phone call that a person I essentially called my brother. He called my parents mom and dad, his children, still to this day, call my parents grandma and grandpa. He's just had a massive heart attack. He's in the hospital. We all go rushing to him. He makes it through for the first 2 weeks. Then he gets pneumonia. And he passes away 3 weeks after my sister. And that's when, I know I don't curse on my channel, that's when the shit hit the fan. I could no longer function in any capacity. I missed 2 days of his wake. I was only barely, and I mean barely, able to drag myself to the funeral. I couldn't get out of bed. I literally, nothing worked. Not one part of my body. The vertigo was so bad that I couldn't walk in a straight line. I couldn't do anything. I was completely incapacitated. Finally, I said, I've had enough. I can't live like this anymore. And I take myself to the doctor. Long story short, she takes an MRI. The first one she took was of my head after giving her all of my symptoms. And I didn't know this, but she told me this, that I also had nystagmus. Nystagmus is when the doctors tell you to follow their vision going back and forth. When you get to one end, your eye will shake. When it goes back to the other end, your eye will shake. It's not something you can feel, but doctors look for that for some type of neurological damage. I had severe nystagmus. With all of that, again, she sent me to the for the MRIs. And look at this. I'm putting shadow on my lower lash line, and I haven't even done my face yet. You see what happens? You see why I don't do it this way? So we are just going to take that off. So she sends me for my MRI. And I get a call from actually her nurse, and she says, we found some things on the MRI. Nothing really to worry about, but she wants you to go for another MRI of the spine. And she wants them to do it with and without contrast. So, you're going to be there for a long time. I was like, all right, whatever it takes, whatever I got to do, so I can actually start maybe to feel normal again. Thinking it's really nothing. I'm going to use this, what is it, the Glow Recipe Watermelon Moisturizer. I haven't really touched it, so I wanted to try it. So the results come back, and as I said, she says, we saw something. She didn't exactly tell me what. So I go for the other MRI, and I'm there forever, and I have to be sedated when I'm in an MRI because your girl's very claustrophobic, just a little bit. And they have to do the contrast. What contrast means is they have to inject this dye. They do a regular MRI first, and then they inject this dye into your bloodstream that will basically contrast anything that's abnormal, hence the word contrast. It kind of lights it up like a Christmas tree if there's anything to be seen. Now, this was the time, we're talking 2000 and the end of 2002, the beginning of 2003 at this point. They didn't have like digital MRIs and things like that. You had to get the films and you had to wait for them to be developed, etc. All stuff like that. Now, they just pop the disc in and there you go. Wham, bam, you have your results. So they come back and my primary care looks at them and she says, well, why don't you come in so we can talk? I'm like, that's not very good when they say, why don't you come in so we can talk? And she sits down with me, she goes, well, we found what we call lesions on your spine and in your brain. And I was like, lesions? I'm thinking like, leprosy or something. I didn't know what that was. And basically it's like scarring on your brain and on your spinal column, your central nervous system, essentially. I'm also going to spray some of this Urban Decay B6 on my face. So she tells me that she gives me the name of a neurologist, and she says she wants me to go see this neurologist. I'm like, okay. So I go to the neurologist, and again, he looks at the MRIs, and he sits me down. He goes, well, from what I'm seeing, I'm thinking it could be a couple of things. I want to do some Lyme tests because the lesions in the brain are usually a sign of Lyme disease, so I want to rule out Lyme. We take some Lyme tests. He takes some more blood. I got stuck more times. I felt like I was feeding vampires. There were hungry vampires just sucking the life out of me. Meanwhile, I am feeling worse. I couldn't. When I went to go see the neurologist, my legs were not so tingly as I would walk. It felt like I had 50-pound weights on each ankle. Taking each step felt like I was walking through thick quicksand, and on top of that they were tingling, numb with shooting pains. I could barely walk into the neurologist's office. The little bit of way that I had to walk felt like I walked a marathon. And that's how it was on a daily basis. Walking to the bathroom from my bed was like dragging a dead body behind me. It was that horrible. My optic neuritis had come back, which is what I found out that what the black spots were. And I've had optic neuritis multiple times, and I actually have very decreased vision in this eye because of it. I still have the spots. They will never go away because the optic nerve was partially damaged there. So, and he says, okay, I go back. The results of the Lyme are negative. He goes, we're still going to do another one because sometimes you can get false negatives. But I'm thinking that it could be MS. Now, at the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't even know what MS is, what MS really was, multiple sclerosis. All I knew is that Annette Funicello had it, and she wasn't doing really well. So, of course, he says it so nonchalantly that it sort of sinks in, but it doesn't, and I just kind of go, oh, okay, what does that mean? He goes, well, we have a few more tests. There's not one test that will diagnose multiple sclerosis. And I'm like, of course not, because it's me. I'm also going to use this very bougie oil that I just got in my FabFitFun box, like $120. It's ridiculous. I'm like, okay, what next? He wanted to do something called evoked potentials, where they hook up electrodes to your head, and then you do a bunch of things, and then they see how your brain waves are. And then he wanted to do a lumbar puncture, which is a spinal tap, which I refused to have done. So basically at the time, again, we're talking in 2003, so many things have changed and grown so much as far as the knowledge about MS that I'm so grateful for that, which is why I'm going to be linking the Multiple Sclerosis Society down. It's no benefit to me, but I want you guys to check it out, because it's such, they contribute to research and everything, and it's great. So now again, before he'll confirm a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, I have to go through all of these other things. We come to figure after 4 months of all these tests, he diagnoses me with MS. And I'm like, okay, now what? How do I start feeling better? Well, what he tells me is that I have what's called relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. I'm going to put a little bit of eye cream underneath my eyes because they're so dry. And what he tells me is that there's no cure for MS. There are some things to treat the symptoms, but a lot of it you have to live with. One thing that helps a lot is steroid infusions, which are really bad because they mess with you a lot, and they also can cause bone damage, osteoporosis, things like that. But I needed to calm down my nervous system. My nervous system was going cuckoo. So I needed to calm it down. So I had to go on infusion of steroid, and then like a long cycle of steroids where you start high and then you taper yourself down. And then he put me on meclizine for my vertigo, and a whole bunch of other drugs. And then he wanted to start me on some, at the time, there were only injectables. There were only 4 injectables. Now, before we go into anything else about that, I do want to explain a little bit about what MS is in case you don't know. I'm going to go with my Flower Beauty Light Illusion Foundation. So MS is a neurological disorder. Basically, it affects your entire nervous system. The symptoms you can get will range so vastly. That's why the ribbon for MS is a prism, because it is ever-changing and it is different in every single person that has it. The only statistics that they really do have are that it normally, predictably, will affect women in their 30s to 50. I fell right in the beginning of the category, which is fairly typical. And MS is usually switched on if you're going to get it by a tragic experience, hence mine being the death of my sister and essentially my stepbrother. What MS does is it affects your nervous system. Your immune system starts to attack yourself. Your immune system is there to ward off and attack any bacteria or diseases. That's why, like when you have the flu, when you get a fever, it's because your immune system is working overtime to eat the bacteria and get rid of whatever is the virus is that is attacking your body. Well, now my immune system has decided to turn on itself. And what happens is it affects the myelin. Myelin is a sheath that covers all of your nerves. It's a protective coating, essentially. The way I want you to think about it is I want you to think about a lamp. The lamp has a wire. You know the white wire that goes into the wall, into the plug? Well, underneath that wire are these red, blue, and black wires that are all twisted together. And you don't want those exposed, or else A, you could catch fire, and B, if they get broken, that lamp is not going to work. So the white coating on the lamp wire protects those wires on the inside. That's basically what myelin is for your nervous system. It's a coating that protects your nerves so they don't get damaged. Well, now my body has decided, all of my little antibodies have said, ooh, yummy, let's go eat that myelin. It looks really tasty. So what's happening is, as the antibodies are now chewing and eating away the myelin, the nerves underneath are being exposed. When a nerve gets exposed, it's like a short circuit in a lamp. And whatever part of your body that nerve controls is now going to malfunction. Now think about it. We have nerves from our head to our toes. And so anything can happen. It can affect every part of your body at any time, depending upon whether you are having what we call an exasperation, or whether the antibodies are active and actively eating away at that myelin. Hence the reason I had all of these basically unrelated symptoms. But when you put them all together in the diagnosis of MS, suddenly it's like, oh, now I get it. Now they all make complete and total sense. So what happened was, I was at my worst because my body was in full-blown exasperation. And what the steroids did was they calmed down my immune system. They suppressed my immune system to get it to calm down, to stop attacking my body. Now, here's the thing. And I have a cat hair on my face somewhere, and it's annoying me tremendously. Here's the thing. Your body is pretty smart. Your brain is pretty smart. Now, I had them, let's put it this way, I didn't tell you. I lit up like a Christmas tree in that MRI. My brain was covered in them. My spine was covered in them. Hence all of the different things that was going on. Now, the body can recover. It can repair itself, but only to a certain extent. So what's happening is the myelin is like, okay, I have to protect myself, so it's going to grow back, right? And it may grow back fully with some scar tissue, but now those nerves are damaged underneath, and now there's scar tissue. So basically, if a signal is going from my brain to my hand, and now suddenly those nerves are damaged and have scar tissue, things aren't going to work so very well with this. Same with the bladder, same with the spine, with the eyes, with everything, with the speech, depending upon what's being eaten, is depending upon how you're going to feel. The body can recover only so much. So basically, you will, with the relapsing remitting, basically, which is what I have, these symptoms will come and go. You can be in what they call remission for a while, which means the disease is not active, or it can be active and cause permanent damage. But, you can repair a lamp. You can wrap some, black electrical tape around it, essentially, and it's going to work. But, eventually those wires inside, the coating, they're not going to work anymore. They're going to get too damaged, and they're just not going to work anymore. And so that's what happens. That's where the permanent disability from MS comes from, is because the body can no longer recover. The brain can no longer, what happens with the brain is other parts of your brain will take over for the damaged parts, and you'll get some of those ability back. But at some point, it's not going to be able to recover anymore. It's not going to bounce back, and you're going to be left with that permanent disability. For me, several of my permanent disabilities are not necessarily noticeable to the outside world, which is why when people look at me, there are days I can walk into the supermarket and be okay, and there are days I cannot. So when I use my handicap placard and I get out of my car and people look at me like, you're not handicapped, and what I tell them is, I will gladly trade you my disease for that handicap placard right now. Take the disease away from me, you can have it, and I'll never use it again. Some days I'm great. Some days I can't walk from the parking lot into my school without every single effort, again, because it feels like I have 50-pound weights on my legs. My vertigo will never go away. It can be treated. You can get vestibular therapy, which is where you go for physical therapy, where they basically maneuver your head and do these positions, and eventually your body kind of recovers a little bit from it, or it gets used to it, and you can recover that way. Those are like $50 a session, and you have to have a lot of them that insurance won't cover. So I've gone for a couple, but not enough. at the time there were 4 injectable medications. That is all they had. And let me tell you, the pain of these medications, it wasn't so much the needles. I tried 3 of them. I had horrible reactions to all of them. At the time, there was an immunomodulator, which meant that it wasn't necessarily suppressing your immune system. It was trying to change your immune system to get those antibodies not to attack your immune system. The problem with that one, the one that I was on, was called Rebif. You would have so many reactions. First of all, you have to inject daily, and you would have to inject in different places, or else you would get skin necrosis, site necrosis, where the skin from being injected so many times would die. So you would have to inject in your thighs, in your upper arms, in your stomach on each side, and in your butt on each side. I looked like a Dalmatian, essentially. I was covered in red bruises. Before one would heal, I would have to take another shot and get another one. You would also get fevers. You would, your heart would race. You would feel like you had the flu for like 3 days, and then you having to take another one. So it was, the cure, and it wasn't even a cure. And the thing at the time was like, well, this is not going to cure the disease. This is going to slow down the disease by about 35%. Okay, so I am going crazy in all of this kind of like agony for 30%. I guess it was better than nothing at the time, but it didn't last long on me because I couldn't, I'm looking for my brush. Aphasia. That's the other thing I've never lost. I've never gotten my full speech and mental capacities completely back. That's okay. You guys find it funny, and I've learned to laugh at myself too. So that didn't work out for me. And then I tried another one, which was basically like an amino acid, which basically, I keep saying basically, what the amino acid did, it acted as a Trojan horse for my immune system. Once it was injected into my body, my immune system, my antibodies thought that this amino acid was my myelin. So instead of attacking my myelin, it was attacking the amino acid that was being injected into my body. The problem is your immune system can get smart and go, no, I know you tried to fool me. That's not her myelin. That's something you did. That's her myelin, and I'm going to eat that for dinner. Lunch, breakfast, snacks, So that stopped working for me. And you can tell whether something's working. They judge it based on the amount of exasperations you have while you've been on the medication. So essentially, that is what it does, and it did not work for me either. Again, I looked like a Dalmatian. I had bruises. The steroids had made me gain a ridiculous amount of weight. This coming from a runner who could no longer run, who could no longer do sit-ups because it felt like somebody was ripping my spine out of my back, who can no longer enjoy and find the release and the peace of feeling good, always feeling dizzy, wanting and needing to sleep so many hours of a day. I wasn't taking care of my body the way I do now and the way I've learned to listen to my body. Now, this brings it into my husband. And again, this is alleged because I don't want to get sued by him. He wasn't very helpful. He wasn't very understanding. He didn't believe that I had MS, even though he had accompanied me to several doctors. He actually took me back to court after we got divorced because he did have to pay me spousal maintenance, and he tried to tell the judge that I don't even have MS, when all I had to do, he went to the doctors, he saw the reports, he's been with me. I had had it for years at this point when he divorced me. Regardless of that, he also started telling me, I was useless, I slept all day, how am I going to have a baby when I sleep all day, how am I going to take care of it, you're not the person I married, lots of other things, the fact that I had gained weight, I wasn't attractive anymore, things like that. That on top of me going through this devastating illness, and I had no, and I do mean no, familial support. My family was still grieving from the loss of my sister. I had nobody I had no support system. All I had was me. I didn't have it at home with my husband. I didn't have it from my family because we were all trying to grieve and mourn my sister. It was only, and my brother, it was only, 6, 7 months at this point. And so I'm going through this alone, and it sucked. It sucked. That's why having a caregiver or somebody that you can share your thoughts with is so important for those of us who have autoimmune diseases and invisible illnesses that most people don't understand, don't care to understand, and won't try to. So now I'm not on the medication anymore. The medication, by the way, thank goodness my insurance covered a lot of it, but my ex-husband used to make a lot of money. So we were fine in that department until I got divorced, then I couldn't afford it anymore. I was living on my own. I couldn't afford it anymore. I will tell you that as the years have gone on, I have learned to listen to my body. I'm going to use the Cover FX palette. I love this palette so much. I've learned to listen to my body. And when my body tells me not to do something, I don't do it. Yes, I push myself beyond my limits, but not enough to where I'm going to make myself incapacitated, because then I would be useless to all. God has also blessed me with the ability to work as much as I do and be able to take care of my family that I need to take care of. But, once he divorced me, I said it was hard. And let me tell you, dating with MS, that's why I'm single, guys. I always talk about being single and things like that. Do you know how many guys have run away once they found out I've had MS? Nobody wants to take on a sick person. There's nobody out there, at least in the... I've been divorced for 11, going on 12 years. Nobody wants a sick person. Nobody wants to take that on. They're worried. They're like, well, when are you going to be in a wheelchair? I don't know when I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I could be in a wheelchair tomorrow. I could be in a wheelchair in 20 years. I could be in a wheelchair never. There's only one person who knows that, and that's God. And he's not letting me in on that, and that's okay. I'm going to take this blush. So that's why I say I am going to be single for the rest of my life, because there's not a person out there that I have met or come across. And you can't say, that's only that person who says that. No. I have tried dating, I've been in relationships, and as soon as I bring it up, and I don't bring it up as a woe is me, I bring it up like, hey, full transparency here at a certain point. I've done it in different times, but, if you start to care about somebody and you're falling in love with somebody, it's only fair. I don't want to fall in love with somebody and have them leave because I told them I have MS. And that's what happens. No matter what point of the relationship I do it, no matter what point I tell them, it's all the same thing. They go, oh. And then it suddenly dwindles, or right away, oh no, I can't be around sick people. Oh no, I'm really sorry, I can't do this. All right. And yes, so I've given up on men and humanity in that aspect, but I haven't given up on myself. That's the most important thing I've found. I've never once has it completely stopped me. Never once have I not fought. Every day of my life is difficult. It takes every ounce of being to drag myself today still out of bed and do what I do. I do what I do because I have two choices. I can crawl into a ball and feel sorry for myself and have a pity party, or I can get my ass up out of bed and do the very best that I can. I may not be able to do much that day, but I got out of bed and I tried and I did my best. And it may not be the best for anyone or everyone, but the things that I can accomplish on a daily basis, I pride myself in. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. Do you know how when you go to the supermarket or to the store and you take your cart out to your car and you're like, oh, I don't want to walk all the way back there, so you leave your car in the parking lot? No matter what, no matter how far away I've parked, if I can park far away and I can walk because I'm feeling good enough to walk, I'm going to. And I walk that cart back to the store every single time. You know why? Because I still can. Because one day I may not be able to walk that cart back to the front of the store, and I'm going to say, damn, I wish my legs worked so I could walk that cart back to the store. So that is what I do. Every day I'm able to run up a flight of stairs. I run up it with a smile on my face, panting like a puppy, but I do it because I can. It's natural for us to take things for granted that we've never lost or that we've never had experiences of losing. And that's okay. I get that. So I don't fault people for not understanding. I do fault people for when they do know that they still don't get it. That's what I fault people for. Again, there's never been one day where I've said, why me? Why not me? Why not anyone else? Why my sister? Why did my sister die at 36 years old and leave 2 babies behind? I've never said why me, and I never will say why me. Now I can put this stuff on. You know, it's like, why anybody? My ex-husband said I was worthless, I was useless, I was no good to him as a wife anymore. Well, you know what? I don't need to be good for him. I need to be good for me and for those who are important to me. And here's what I'm going to say. Now, when you first get diagnosed, you go through so very many emotions. You're scared. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the future holds. You're scared. And yes, you get depressed. I'd say a good 9 months when I first got when I first got diagnosed, I was really, really depressed. I was in a deep depression for a while. And it really, again, annoyed the bejeebies out of my husband. But as time went on, again, I started to feel better because I started to know what my body needed. I started to recognize the signs of what was going on. When my body needed rest, I gave it rest. When I could do more, I did more. But that took time, and it took patience on my part, and it was supposed to have taken patience on my ex's part, but obviously he wasn't able to do that, which is why he's no longer here. So let's talk about the things I can no longer do. I can't run anymore. Can't work out the way I used to. When I do simple things like vacuuming, my body vibrates for hours afterwards. Little tasks exhaust me. If I scrub the tub, I have to rest for good half an hour before I can continue to function. But I can still scrub the tub. I can still vacuum. I have to say the vertigo is the worst because when I have the vertigo, I can't do anything. It's so hard with the vertigo, and I wish that was the one thing I wish would subside, but it never will. So I eat meclizine like candy. And the fatigue, you know how I talk about being tired? Well, I'm tired because I work all the time, but imagine your worst tired day and multiply that by 1,000, and that is the level of my tired. So a lot of the level of my tired is my MS, and I've always had the fatigue. That was, as I said, one of my biggest symptoms that I had. Do you see me trying to get this hair? That was one of the biggest symptoms that I had, and that has never gone away. And so, yes, I do take medicine to help me stay awake, or else I will fall asleep standing up in line at the supermarket. My speech gets all messed up. That's why there's a lot of edits in my videos. A lot of them I leave in because they're funny, and I have to laugh at myself. If you can't laugh at yourself, you'll just cry, so I laugh. So there's a lot more things I can't do, but you know what I want to focus on? I want to focus on the things that I can do. I can still walk. I can still speak. I found other ways to exercise and still feel good about myself. I can do makeup. I wake up every day, and those are all good things. I can still work. Granted, it's hard. I can still find the little accomplishments in the things that I can do on a daily basis because I know that I'm so blessed to still be able to do them because I don't know when they'll be taken away. No one knows when they'll be taken away. But all I can do is keep going and keep trying and keep accomplishing even the littlest of things because I have to. I no longer focus on the things I can't do. I focus on the things that I want to try to do and the things that I still can do. Now here's one thing I want to give information or advice for those who are dealing with people who have autoimmune diseases or invisible illnesses. And it comes a very wise person, and if I can find it, I'm going to link it below. I have endless copies of it. Someone wrote something called the spoon theory. Most people, I want you to associate spoons as energy. Most people, when they wake up every day with an endless amount of spoons. They have enough spoons to get up, to take a shower. I could barely wash my hair for a long time, people, just so you know. It took too much energy to raise my arms to wash my hair. Couldn't blow dry my hair either. So most people wake up every day and they have an endless amount of spoons. And each little activity they do, they use a spoon. Getting up out of bed takes a spoon, making the coffee, climbing up the stairs, getting dressed. Those are all spoons, 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 spoons. And, you know, they don't run out of spoons. Well, we, with autoimmune diseases, or me with MS, I wake up and every day I wake up with only a limited amount of spoons. I may wake up with 20 spoons that day. Now imagine, 1 spoon to get out of bed, 2 spoons to take a shower, 3 spoons to walk into work. And when I run out of spoons, I'm out of spoons. The next day I wake up and I have 50 spoons. Sometimes I wake up and I have 5 spoons. And guess what happens on those days? I'm in bed. So, for those who say to us, or those of us who have these diseases, oh, you look fine. You look great. You look fine to me. Never ever say those things to a person, because you never know what kind of agony is going on in the inside. Do you think we're going to go around all day and complain and whine and say, woe is me? No, we're going to put our best face on and our makeup on. And they're like, I've had people say, well, you roll the makeup, you look fine. Maybe I want to feel good about myself. Maybe I want to feel pretty. Is that okay? Never say those things to people. And, a lot of people don't do it maliciously. A lot of people just think they're saying the right thing. But telling me I look fine, you have no idea how much. They may not know that it took every effort for me to get up out of my seat and walk over to the door. They may not know what it took for me to do that. And so I don't fault people who don't understand. I do fault my husband for not taking our vows that we took in church together. For better, for worse, for sicker, for poorer. I do fault him for that. And I said when I had to stop working one of my jobs, he got even madder at me. And that was kind of basically the beginning of the end for our marriage. So the spoon theory was written by I'm not sure who, but basically it tells the story of and explains how we, with autoimmune diseases, only have a limited number of spoons. And healthy, normal people have an endless supply of spoons. And it was so well written and so pertinent and so meaningful to me that I kept the original copy that I had found folded up in my wallet for so many years until basically it disintegrated. But I think it's important to at least have an understanding of what it's like. And I said, look at the things I can do. I can do YouTube. I can teach. I can't play guitar and piano as well as I used to. The hands don't work as well as they used to, but I can still play. For me, focus on the positive. I focus on the blessings that I still have, that I'm still able to do. I didn't put on half the crap that I brought out with me to play with, by the way, just so you know. But that's okay too. I actually bought some Laura Lee products. She was having a 40% off sale. You think something's going on there? I don't know. Anyway, she makes really nice liquid lipsticks. This one's in Jaybird. I'm going to spray myself again. So here's the finished face, and I just want to say a few more things. So why did I do this video? Lipstick? Lipstick on the teeth. Why did I do this video? I wanted to let you guys in a little bit more of my life so you understand some of what I am when I come to you and do these videos. I also wanted to maybe provide just a little bit of an education for those of you who don't know what multiple sclerosis is, and maybe just give you a little bit of insight into how to deal with somebody with MS or anything or any disease that somebody has, whether it be cancer or whatever it is. And I know that so many of you who watch me have things going on with their life. And I hope that I've given you hope. I hope that I have given you inspiration. If I've helped one person, just one person out there with my story, then me spilling my guts and sharing it all with you guys will be forever, ever worth it. Because I said, it's not a woe is me. It's not a feel sorry for me. It's not a pity party. It's a, I want to inspire someone else. I want to show that I keep going, and not everybody can, but I keep going. I don't stop. I don't take no for an answer. I tell my MS to F off. And that's what I'm going to keep telling it. I'm going to keep fighting it with every breath I have, with every fiber of my being. I am going to fight back against it, because it, the monster as we like to call it, is not going to win. And as I said, if I have brought any ounce of inspiration or meaning or anything to any of you who are watching this, please share it with me. Please share your story if you're going through something. Please ask me any questions, because I would be happy to answer them. And most of all, I want to thank you all so much for all you have been to me on my channel. This is my solace. Now you understand my solace. This is what brings me my joy. This is my peace, my me time. And you guys are the reason that keep me going, because it means so much to me, and you mean so much to me, and I will never ever be able to thank you enough. So as usual, my regular ending, whatever part of the world you are in, on, and around, I hope you have an amazing, blessed day. And I hope that you will come back and visit me really soon for another happy video. Much, much love, my friends.